Okay, we have successfully saved it in C drive. Now let's go back to our C folder and copy this jar file and come to your JMeter folder, installation folder, and in this go to library folder in this. Fine. Here come down and check for JUnit folder. Right, now you got it right. Why have I used this JMeter annotation here? Come to JUnit folder and paste it here. Okay, whatever you paste here comes under JUnit test cases, right? So as we have written Selenium code in JUnit annotations, so it will execute. So basically you can run your Java code and you can basically integrate that with JMeter by placing in JUnit folder, right? So same code is now in this jar file. Now when you open JMeter, JMeter now will have access to your code because we have placed that project into the library folder and JUnit folder of Apache JMeter. Fine. So whatever you place in this lib folder, all these jars will be accessed by JMeter. So that's the reason they have specifically mentioned library path. But in this path, we have separate JUnit folder in which you can place your JUnit test cases, right? So now I just placed it here, and now I can access this from JMeter. This cell JMeter is the jar in which we have how to invoke ebay.com. So this is the code present in this Selenium JMeter jar file. So okay, let's call it from our JMeter tool and see how can we run it from there, right? So if your JMeter is already open, you have to restart. It will not reflect for first time. Let's close this and go back to our JMeter folder and bin, come down, yeah, start. Okay, this is basically shell script. Fine. Windows batch file. So this will launch JMeter for us. So if you have your Selenium scripts with you, export it as a jar files and place it in the library folder of Apache JMeter. That's all. That's the only thing you need to do to integrate your JMeter and Selenium code. Okay, just make it as a jar file and import it here. Right. So now I'll create a thread group and right. Now sampler. So till our last session we have used HTTP request kind of samplers, right? Now you need to select JUnit request. Fine. So if I assume that you have JUnit basics before you watch this lecture. If not, please go through the videos of the JMeter in JMeter performance web testing course. Okay, and also I assume that you have a basics on Selenium to follow this lecture. If not, request you to go through my Selenium WebDriver tutorial course. Fine, there we have taught everything 0 to infinite in Selenium. Okay, we have taught all the concepts there. So same applies to JMeter as well. If you don't have a JMeter basics, I request you to watch the modules of JMeter performance testing course, right? So I assume you have both Selenium and JMeter basics to watch this course, because basically you are integrating, when you are integrating both the other tools, you just need to have the basics. Fine. So in thread group we have selected, generally we go with HTTP request sampler, but this time I'll select JUnit request. Fine. So I'll say that totally 5 users have to run it. Number of threads 5. Okay, at a time totally 5 users have to run this test case. And okay, that's all. That's basic criteria. We will put it here. Let's run this load by putting 5 load at a time, and come down here. In JUnit request, click on this checkbox, because we are working with JUnit 4 annotations, 4 plus annotations instead of JUnit 3. So select this checkbox, then automatically you will have a class name and test method here. Open the class name and okay, and select exercise sample. One second, test method. Okay, I think it's not displaying here, it right? Drop down. What is class name here? Class name sample. Okay, sample we have. Yeah, testing. This is only right. Yeah, testing. So yeah, you can see here when you check it, class name and test method you need to give. So go back to your Selenium code and see what is the class name. So sample is the class name, right? So come down here and select sample, but make sure you check this checkbox. If you don't select, you will not see that option. So once you select sample, if there are multiple methods here, it asks you to what test to execute. Here we have only testing, so this is the test method. Fine, right? And success message, test successful, and these are all different kind of parameters. If error message occur, what you need to give and all. So I'll go to thread group and I say run it for 5 users at a time. So 5 browsers should open for my application. So but basically this is not a good practice of importing Selenium code into, integrating Selenium to JMeter, because here the browsers are getting opened. If you say run for 100 users, 100 browsers should open in your application, okay, which is not worthy. It will make your performance down and you will not get actual performance metrics. But there is a headless browser concept in Selenium, with which you can work on Selenium code without opening browser. That is HTML unit driver. Okay, so with the HTML unit driver, you can actually run the code without opening browser. Okay, so I'll talk about that too, but let me run first with the 5 users, so that 5 browsers will open. And let me create a listener to see view results tree, and fine, all set. Run the code. Have to save the test cases. Selenium JMeter 1. Okay, save it, and you can see the logs from the options log viewer. Okay, you can see what's happening actually. Log viewer, you can see if the test script started execution or not. All the details you can see log viewer. And at the same time you can see how many are running. 5 by 5 threads started running. That information you can see it here. Fine. So I guess it's trying to launch the URL. Let's see. So it's still running. Script not yet failed. But if you see the debug, you are getting some information here. But don't worry, that's related to JMeter, some constructor. So, but as I said, it's not good practice in invoking browsers. So it's obvious, right? If 10 browsers open at a time, automatically your performance goes down. You can see that Firefoxes 2 opened at a time right now, and third one, so they are keep on opening, and you can see fine. So that's how you can integrate your Selenium scripts with the JMeter. So what all you need to do is just go to the create a JUnit request and give what class you are working on, okay, and what is the method you want to execute, and run it. Fine, and we can see 2 requests completed. Sampler result, load time. So you can note it down. If you are hitting 5 requests at a time, what is the load time you are getting? Fine, and see, at the first time it was 78,394 seconds, but when the initial first thread started, but by the third thread started, the load time went to 11,203 seconds. Okay, so you can check your parameters here, but I guess here this load time is changing because of internet connection as well, because you know, that's why you cannot actually predict the load time, but still you can, there are requirements saying that if you have 2 Mbps speed and if you are opening 5 browsers at a time, what is the load time? There are cases, but in practical people will not hit 5 browsers in a single PC, but if might be they are working in a different browsers and they want to open this application in new browser for security purpose, then this kind of scenarios will work, checking for 5 browsers how the application is behaving. You can see that for first request it took 78,394 milliseconds, but for fifth request it went on double. Fine, so that's how the test case got executed, and this is the output debug. You can see started the thread group. Fine, response data, you will not get anything. Response message, test successful, and you can modify this response message in the JUnit request. Okay, test successful. Okay, now let's see how to run these scripts without opening the browser to increase the performance of scripts. Okay,